An Amstrad 8090. It is a very poorly little radio. I bought this mainly because I like the idea that it's got a removable Walkman. So that part just slides out. That's full, so it's not playing. Today, main deck's not playing. Radio's working. Photo input's working, but after a couple of minutes of playing, it starts to get all distorted, the sound, so I think there's definitely power supply issues. If I just turn him on, hear the crackling, how distorted that is, and that's tuned in. If I go to phono, how distorted that is. Sometimes it comes on clear, sometimes it doesn't. Tape player's not working at all. Can't even hear the belt or the motor spinning. The top one is spinning, but there's no sound output from it. That's another job we've got to look at. And then we've got crackly pots, which is just the normal for this sort of thing. So they're not too bad, but volume control's not too good. We're gonna have to strip him down, I think. Let's have a quick look at dismantling this thing. It's quite nice on the back of the unit. We've got space here for the batteries. I do have the battery cover, and there's a small space there for the front LCD clock. Well, I really am quite unsure how this thing comes apart. Can't find a manual for it or anything, so I think we'll just start with the obvious and take off whatever we can disconnect. So take the speakers off. Take out this cassette unit. And then remove the knobs. And then that's as much as we can take off. Then on the rear of the unit, seem to have screws here, here, here. On the side here. So it's something loose inside here. So then we get on the bottom, there's 3 screws here. So let's just start taking it apart. Right, let's see if the front is now removable. I think there's still more screws to take out there. So let's take the screws out the rear. Okay, I think we've got it now. So I think we should be able to just lift it away now. And with the front lifted away, so effectively we took the screws out all around the side, and there's just one large screw there in the back, just here. Power supply's down here, main control board, cassette motor, FM tuning, and I presume the power amp is in here somewhere. So I think a little bit more dismantling, and we should now be able to start checking some of the components. So it looks like to separate this board, there's a connector here, allows it to come down, and then we've got pink and a red there, and I think I will just take a few photos, which it always pays to do this. Every angle you can get, I think if we now disconnect these two. That's the power supply disconnected. And the only other wires holding it to the back now is the antenna wires. Sorry, speaker wires these are. They're labelled yellow and white. So we do now have separation. Should be a little bit easier now to work on. I think now I'm going to get the power supply board out and check the power supply, and then we'll start looking at some of the components on these boards for anything that looks swelled, as in the electrolytic capacitors, any dry joints, but we'll start with the power supply I think and work our way forward from there. To get this power supply board out, there's a screw just there. There's one way down there, just down there, not very easy to see. There we go. But I think we've now got to desolder this to get it off this tag on the back. So I'm going to heat the soldering up and just have a look, see if we've got to heat this tag up so we can lift this board out. It seems to be just being held on by that. The speaker connections, I'll show you those while we're in here. Speakers are connected here and here onto these metal plates, and on this side we've got a white and what looks like to be a yellow, and that's how the speakers are brought out onto these metal tabs. So I'll just get that desoldered and see if that loosens it up. Oh, that's got it. So the black wire off. Well, that's definitely loosened it off, so we've got it off that tag at the back. I think we're going to put the transformer screws out now. Just see if we can get the whole module out. Those are quite long screws. Hopefully we can let's lift the whole thing out. And there we have it. The power supply module and the transformer. What a beefy transformer that is. And now I can just check a few components. We've had a quick check round with the meter, can't find anything wrong. I'm going to change these three capacitors on this main power supply board. There's no point in not doing it really. There's only three. And then we can move on from there. I'll test some of the voltages on this. There is a transistor there, which I need to check and find out what it actually is. But really it's a very basic power supply with your bridge rectifier here, smoothing cap. And that could just be a voltage regulator. We'll have to have a Google and see if we can find that component. But all the other components I've checked with the meter, diodes are okay. The capacitors I'm just going to change anyway, so I'm not really bothered about checking those. I will check them once I've taken them off. But sometimes you can get issue with this old glue, it can become conductive, so I want to get that off anyway. The three caps are removed. I've tested them all on this basic capacitance meter, multifunction tester, and they all measured okay to be honest. But I'm going to leave them changed anyway, due to the age of the component. There's only a probability of time before they actually break down, so, but they all tested fine. The power supply's back in, put all the screws in, resoldered that tag just there, and just screwed the transformer back down. We've changed the caps on that board, as I say they did test okay, so now it's just really a question of now tracing the voltages through to the main control board, which just happens to be sitting over here, and have a look on that board for faulty components, dry joints. Before going too much further, I think I'm going to strip one of these speakers down and have a look. It looks like it's just held together with 4 or 5 screws, so we'll get those out and we'll have a look. Quite long screws. That's the inside of the caviter. Oh, there's your speaker. I've got a 10 watt 4 ohm speaker and looks like a 3.5 watt 4 ohm speaker. So we'll get those speakers out and we'll have a quick look at those. Right, there's your speaker. And we'll give that a test, make sure they're okay. We'll give those both a test to make sure they're okay. And we can clean the inside of the cavity out. So this grill just simply lifts out. I'm quite surprised there's not much dust in here, to be honest. So we can give that a clean as well. So we'll get the main speakers tested and see if they're okay. Next thing to do is you can remove the whole of this module in total. And I'll try and show you there, but there's a screw there. There's a second screw down there. There's a screw down there. You don't need, there's 2 down there, but it's the one towards the bottom you need to remove. There's a screw just there, through that hole there. There's a screw down there, and right down there in the motor, just in between the belt, there's another screw. But then, I think I showed you that screw down there, because there's a nice cutout to get your screwdriver in. There is one more screw, and it's underneath this module, and what we need to do, we're going to have to take the 4 screws out that hold it down. It should then lift up, and there's a centre screw. There's that screw there, sorry, there's one there as well. You need to take that one off. You can then lift this module up, and then underneath there's a screw straight in the centre, which is holding the black chassis down to the grey plastic. It seems a lot of work just to get all the boards out, but it's the only way I'm going to actually fault find the bottom of these boards, and then I'm going to have to look at separating things once I've got the whole module out. There is one other thing we need to do before we can get the front off, is we need to press the eject button, and this cassette tray, there is small, that piece comes off. Now you need to take that piece off. You push that back in and everything then should drop forwards. So let's start taking these screws off. And we should now, we need to disconnect these two wires here. And these two, so we can disconnect it fully. Those to one side, and we should now be able to lift the whole module out, leaving just the front, and it is that simple. So we get that cleaned up. Now we've got access to the bottom of this board. We can take this board off and get access to the belts, which are in there onto these wires, and also we can get access to this board without disturbing this wire for the tuning. So the next thing to do now is, I think, just start cutting a couple of these cable ties off, loosening up the board so I can actually get them off, and then start checking some of the components.